Hey, it's Candia Raquel, founder of Centro de Poder. Welcome to the Sensual Sessions, the place to be to sense your fire so you can share your flame. And today we have a very special guest. She is Marina Tsartsara. She is a somatic teacher and a body-mind centering trainer. And she's also an multidisciplinary artist. She's a dancer, a sculptor, she likes to write, and she's a wonderful person. Welcome, Marina. So happy to have you here.
Hello, Candia. Thank you for having me. Really lovely to meet you.
My pleasure. So tell us a little bit about what you do on your everyday work for teaching this connection to the senses, connecting to the body.
Okay, so my work, I have two lines of work or more.
Or more?
But the two main of lines of work, yes. One of them is the somatics. So it comes through the sensing of the body and teaching somatics, teaching body-mind centering. So Somatic Movement Education. And the other line is art. So I also come from fine arts and also dance and visual art. So basically, talking about the senses, for me, both disciplines, both fields of work somehow find and meet each other very much in my work through the senses, because to me, making art is a sensorial experience, and being and connecting to the body, finding the body is through the senses very much. So it is waking up the senses. And I have created in the last years, I have created something of mine that brings my lines of work together, and it's called Somatic Art. And this is basically what I'm interested in, is how to create through sensing the body. So how can visual art or fine art or dance be expressed, but through inhabiting and sensing the body, sensing the skin, sensing being through the senses. And at the same time, how can art be this place of sensorial input? So how can this place also be a place of experiencing and perceiving through the body, the materials? So in this way, many times, it is starting from one or starting from the other, and then finding, this common place of sensing, but also expressing, and sensing through being or sensing through making, but really waking up to the senses, being visual, or sometimes it is with eyes closed and it is sensing the materials and drawing without seeing, or it is drawing with your feet, or it is drawing with your body, with both hands. So it is very, in this way, very much about being in the present moment.
This is an extraordinary approach, what you're doing of somatic arts, both from the stage of creating the piece of art, and also from this experiencing part of being like an spectator, enjoying the art, because sometimes we just are stuck in our discursive mind and thinking and talking and mechanically doing without getting immersed in the experience of the flesh. That is where life is, in the beingness of all that you are. And I love how you say of creating with your eyes open and having a visual experience and sensation, but also like sensing the materials when you have your eyes closed and involving your whole self. And I remember I was just talking with you a few minutes ago before we started, and I'm gonna tell the audience about how was a key experience in my life of being an spectator of art with my whole body, like from my senses, and not just like judging, like, no, he painted with the right color but the wrong contrast or whatever. So I was in Venice about to enter the Guggenheim museum, and I remember I just like went through the door, and I felt like an energetic impact in my body, like completely disorienting, and I just slide through the wall to a bench and sat there, I think maybe for over an hour, completely stunned at a painting. Like, it was an overwhelming experience of what I was seeing. I was not only seeing the painting, I was living in my flesh through my senses a whole experience. Like, I was taken to a different cognitive domain, to a unique space. And that's one of the biggest and most intense artistic experiences I had in my life. And when I finally like got over it, overcome like the shock, I walked to the painting and saw on the little card, like, that was a painting from Pablo Picasso. And I was like, I used to hate Picasso, but that time I learned to respect like an artist. And like, I'm amazed of this transformative power that true art has.
Yes.
It's difficult to say what is art and what is not art, because it's very subjective. But I can say that art touches you. It can be words, it can be images, it can be textures, but that happened in the body, in the flesh. And even if it's like stunning, there's also like a quality of pleasure. There's a quality of a certain understanding, a certain realization that happens, for me, through the artistic experience. So what would you say about experiencing pleasure somatically, like somatic pleasure, not just like the pleasure of thinking, but what can you say about somatic pleasure?
Yes, that's really such a lovely question also, no? Because I think we avoid very much the word pleasure, and or it has specific connotations. And it's really nice, it's to be able to open, you know, the notion of pleasure to actually everyday small things, you know, that are sensorial things. And even when we are talking about art, you know, how much do you open to receiving? And I think pleasure has to do with openness, with opening towards something, you know, to being receptive, somehow to have this, you know, sometimes they say in Bodymind Centering, like how the egg and the sperm, you know, so the egg is very receptive, you know, there to receive, you know, and this is like a state of, exactly. So this is like a state of being, very big. It's like very huge being, but it is more the state of being than doing.
Yes.
So the sperm has more this notion of like, you know, knowing where it is going, having a specific aim, and it's more about doing.
Yes.
So the egg is more about being. And there is something about this being and this receptivity that has to do so much with pleasure, with how open am I to receiving this artwork, not only through my eyes, but also through my skin. You know, how much can my senses participate in that? And of course, I mean, obviously, you cannot touch many times the works of art. But there are so many times that I have been in a museum or like in a gallery, and I really wanted to touch this sculpture because I understand it more and I can participate more, you know, and I can sense it more. So materials are so powerful. They have this amazing sensorial power and richness. And that's why I love working with materials somatically, because it's very different to propose, I don't know, to the students to bring one material, you know, like maybe a feather, for
Yes.
example, you know.
Now
And then, you know, to really and to really have the experience, you know, of how is it to touch yourself with this material, or how is it to touch yourself with something harder, you know, like here I have also like a brush. A brush is different also. This is a different touch. What do you have there?
a pencil, and I am touching myself with the eraser, with the painting thin area and the wooden. Wow, now my office has, it's like, this is so soft, and the paint.
Exactly, exactly.
And we have this at the reach of our hands every day, like life is pleasurable. How
Exactly.
come are we wasting our lives, like disregarding all the gifts
It is
of the materials around us? And
exactly. It
what,
is so available.
it's
It
so
is so
available.
easy.
Yeah, and as soon as you engage to your somatic experience, you get focused and concentrated, and there's no space for distraction. You become involved in the experience of either the doing or the receiving what is going on there.
Exactly. It's like being available to the present moment. There is something that, yes, it's not always pleasure. Sometimes it is pain, some other times it is pleasure, but it is being fully available and alive, you know, being fully present, you know, through the senses. So, and everything is, you know, I mean, it might be that it feels really pleasurable in some places, and it might be that it feels annoying in some other places. But
Yeah,
it is,
yeah.
yes, you know. Uh, but in
So
this,
yeah, pleasure has a discernment. Pleasure is intelligent. Like like when you said it, I was like already almost like crossing my eyes because it feels so good here on the clavicle. But then when you say it annoying, like, okay, what could be like the pencil in the nose? It's not such a pleasurable idea. So there's an intelligence because, I mean, we are our bodies. It's not that we have a body and a mind. Like, no, it's we are, and that's it. And we know so much from the universe and from ourselves beyond our discursive thinking, like just turning inwards to our sensations. And this is so immediate, so immediate. Why do you think we run away from sensing pleasure, like in our society?
oh, hmm. um, yeah, I think somehow, mostly, I mean, I can say everyone, but it is more common for the senses to be more closed than open and available. So there is not so much availability for sensing the pleasure. Somehow we have put this like pleasure space in a very specific time
Yes.
and context in
Yes.
our life. So it needs to be, you know, and it needs also to be specifically with someone else, you know. But it can be also having a walk and sensing the wind. That's what I mean, actually, to opening up a little bit more to what does it mean to be available with the senses. But then also linked with that needs to go another important part, the part of listening to the senses.
Yes.
Because the senses somehow are telling us they are like the bridge between outside and inside.
Yes.
No? So there, it is through the senses that we are in contact with the world. We are in contact with the air, we are in contact with the people, we are in contact with everything else that is just beyond the skin and touches us. So, of course, it is important to listen when it is a moment to completely open up the senses, and when it is a moment also to close a little bit and contain ourselves.
Yes.
Because sometimes it can be overstimulating. And it is good to also go step by step, to really take our time, and see, okay, so maybe what if I take like a sensorial walk today, and go for it, not expecting to be, COC, accompanied by someone, or it means that pleasure is something between two, it can be a relationship with everything around.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. This is so clarifying because indeed we are like expected to behave in an appropriate way according to the situations, and I mean that's good, that's perfect and contextual, but often we make our own conclusions that in terms of pleasure it can only be on a specific setup, like on an intimate situation with someone else, behind closed doors. And yes, that's excellent, like pleasure should really go there, but not at the cost of only having that place for pleasure. And that makes me think that many people have problems there, like on the bedroom or in intimate relationships, and problems with pleasure because they don't practice the appropriate pleasure on the everyday life. It's like pleasure is about openness, but if you're all the day framed on your little box of contention, that it's important, a conscious contention as boundaries with the world, so you're safe and the world is safe from you also. But if there's no like sensitivity and discernment to where you're at and what you're doing, then you're gonna run on autopilot, depriving yourself not only from pleasure but from the feedback of the world that lets you know exactly where you're at. And I think it's so important, pleasure, and claiming it back and regulate, or really being attuned with yourself and with the space where you're at, so the experience both in your receptivity of pleasure and in the way you express pleasure is appropriate. Like, for example, like I can make a fetish out of anything, but like without making a fetish of a pencil, or I don't know, without making a fetish out of the cup, like simply being like here having a conversation with you and being live, like I can talk and feel with my skin like the cup of coffee, and I can also enjoy the pixel resolution of the screen, and I can also enjoy listening at your voice, and I can also pleasure from my posture. And I believe that this is like one of the most important messages for the sensualists that are listening to us on this conversation. Like really,
Yes, yes.
sense your space. So tell us about the space, both from the sculpture perspective of the space and the embryological space and all space.
Mhm. Yes, actually, I was thinking now, I'm going a little bit behind. I'm still with my feather here. So just to say that I do agree very much with what you say. And I think many times we are subconsciously or a little bit consciously to, closing down our senses to be, so as not to feel pain many times. It is almost like, if we have any painful experiences from the past that all of us have, it is sometimes closing down the senses, you are more secure.
Yes.
But at the same time, we don't realize that if we do that, then we cannot close down the senses only for the painful stuff that can come in. You close down the possibility of also the subtleness of other types of senses, sensorial experiences and pleasure. Yeah, just that. And then you're asking about the space.
Yes.
And I was saying, yes, before we started recording, we were talking a little bit about the space. And I was saying that I love, something that I do love a lot about embryology is the relationship to the space. Somehow there is this dynamic morphology, the dynamics of how the forms are changing. And not only the forms are changing, but the spaces are changing. And there is this relationship between forms and space and form and space, and finding support in each other, which is really lovely as a concept. And also we were talking a little bit about, supporting yourself with, like, from the front or from the back, with the yolk sac and with the amniotic fluid. Yeah. So it's amazing to think how much the space is actually supporting us and is part of us. And the space has always been a part of us. The space around us was us. The space above us was us.
Yes.
And it's so nice to have in mind this extension, and how all of this at some point became part of this form that we are now. But we can still sense those, getting into these embryological experiences. We can still sense all of the support and the richness of the space around us. Yeah. Yes, and I was also saying about how it's some way I feel that I love embryology in relation to the form, the dynamics, and the space. And somehow I was making the link that because I also come from sculpture and from fine arts, that for me, it has always been, the form has always been something extraordinary, how the transformation of something, like that it can become with time something and then change again, and all of that. Also being very physical. It is very physical. It is through the body. It is like the body participating so much into the making and the sensing of the materials. Yes.
Yes, the body participate in the making and the sensing of the materials. I'm loving this. Can you share with us an exercise or a movement experience so we can connect to our senses and enjoy
Yes.
pleasure in our body?
Yes. Okay, so something I am improvising now. So something we can do is if we can have some paper in front of us, just a piece of paper, and then find a material that can be, it can be charcoal. Charcoal is nice because then we can use it in different ways and also have lines or marks, different kinds of marks. Yes.
I have a pencil.
But if you just have a pencil, this is also fine. And somehow even the pencil, you can use it in so many different ways. Because a pencil, you know, thinking about, let's say, thinking about different sensations. So if you have, let's say, a tingling sensation, then maybe you just want to make like some little dots, you know. I mean, you can really use like the pencil in relation to the sensations. Or maybe then you feel something really strong, very kind of intense. Or maybe then you start feeling the wind, and the wind is just a line going around your shoulder. So you can use the material in such a subtle or intense way by pressing more and pressing less, you know. And maybe then you can also, you know, have different kinds of. So really not thinking about it. And this is one of the things in my classes. I really try to always have exercises that people won't think about how it's going to look at the end, because the important part is to sense it, to be like fully sensorial with it. And so if you do have another material that you can touch, like a charcoal that you can have between your fingers, on an, you know, maybe just after, you know, we talk, or maybe after people have, you know, heard the podcast, they can find another material that you can touch. So in this way, imagine that you can also roll the material on the paper with your fingers, if it is something like charcoal or maybe pastel. So you can start sensing with your fingers also the page. So
I am enjoying this.
yes. Yes, using. So basically, my proposal is, I don't know where you are. Like, for example, I have the window open, so I can sense a lot of wind coming in. But I would suggest we have a drawing just for a couple of minutes, that it can be fully sensorial. So if you have wind, or if you're touching like your skin, just going, you know, with your pencil, exploring how can you somehow go closer to the textures you feel on your skin in this moment. And if it is sounds and you don't have much stimulation on your skin, but you have more sounds, maybe you can also follow if there is a high pitch or if it is a low pitch, and if there is a wind. And we can also follow a little bit the breath. So just sensing the breath coming in through the nose. And maybe the intensity of the pushing of the material on the paper can change in relation to how thin you feel your breath comes in, or how intensely you sense it in your diaphragm. And then just letting the material really have a life of its own and change directions and use different marks. You can even follow the rhythm of the breath, so you can stop in between. You can have a little stop. In between inhalation and exhalation. Or if the in-breath is faster and your out-breath is very slow, you can use the material very differently. And then you can take a look at what you have and really take it in through the senses, through your eyes. Really open your skin to what you're seeing. Just appreciating. Yes. Wow, that's fantastic. I mean, this is already a score for movement, you know. In my eyes, this is just, and you can see so many different textures, like softness and hardness, and that's beautiful.
I'm gonna send it to the Guggenheim in Venice. I love this. I'm gonna continue with the wall.
Yes. Yeah, actually you can, I mean, this is just a very fast, you know, we would take much more time and, you know, go maybe through all of the senses, and that would be like a really sensorial drawing. But it can be a practice, even just the breath that we did at the end can be a really lovely practice. And then when you see it, also I think there is something about this journey, and those lines, they're just so intuitive and so alive. There is so much life into, you know, this immediate drawing.
Yes, and at the same time, I mean, I don't know for everyone, but for me, this makes a lot of sense because it's like looking at the mirror. It's like, yeah, I can sense something, and this movement and this impression reflects me back. So it's wonderful to be at the same time the creator and the observer, like the actor and the receiver of the action. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And if you have now time after we talk, you can also dip your fingers into materials that you can sense with your, you know, like, and really go through the paper, you know, really sensing the whole hand.
Liking it very much. Very important practice. Thank you, Marina. Really.
Thank you, Candia. So lovely to meet you.
This is a great practice and a great conversation, and this is very important for everyone. So would you share with us, like, what are 3 words that describe how are you sensing, or what are you sensing in this moment?
Joyfulness, yes. I also sense some, I mean, it sounds again fullness, you know, like joy. Maybe I can say childfulness. I feel something like there is something about, or playfulness, you know, something about being children again. And to me, being open with the senses is almost like being a child again. And that's why it feels nice to do practices that are not thoughtful, you know, just, you know, going for it. So maybe intuitive. So maybe one would be intuitive, playful, and joyful. Yeah.
Intuitive, playful, and joyful. Love it. So tell us, where can we know more about your work? Where can we find you?
Okay, so my website is somaticwellbeing.info. And then I have a Facebook, Marina Tsartsara, and my Instagram is, again, my name, Marina Tsartsara. And I think this is, where you can find most of my workshops. I have Somatic Art online workshops weekly. Apart from now, the summer season, we are just now having a break.
Great. So everyone go find Marina Tsartsara on Instagram and sign up for her Somatic Art online workshops. It's great that they are online. You can go take it from wherever you are.
As we said before, we started through, because of the virus and like being at home. So this has been happening for the last 2 years. But we kind of started really liking, enjoying having that weekly practice. So I go on, and now I think I will continue also from September.
Yeah, great idea. Thank you so much, Marina, for being here with us.
Thank you, Candia. Have a lovely afternoon, evening.
Morning.
Morning. Yes. So really.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And thank you to all the sensualists. If you haven't already signed up for the sensual sessions, go to centrodepoder.com and enter your email to receive these episodes every week on your inbox. And until then, remember to sense your fire so you can share the flame.